Okay, in this video I'm going to go over how to repair the oiler in my Stihl 025 chainsaw. Now, I came across a unique problem, and the reason I'm making this video is because the problem with my oiler is a little different than most people have with their oiler. So I'm just going to go over how I go through to get to the oiler, which is behind the clutch bell. At this point, I've already taken off, the chain and the bar, and I've undone some of the screws to get to it, so where you can loosen the handle from the main chassis. But real quickly, let's go ahead and get to the oiler. First of all, we've got to pop off this E-ring right here. I'm just going to pop this off. Just pop that off. Make sure you keep it grab onto it so it doesn't go flying. Take off this washer, and then that takes off the clutch ring. Now, I've already loosened the clutch right now, but basically it goes, you need an 19 millimeter ratchet, and if you use, this is like a hammer type power drill that will help hammer that off there without spinning the motor. So basically you turn that in the forward direction and this will spin off. You can make sure you grab your needle bearing here. Pull that off, it goes over there. Spin this forward. Like again, you're just going to need that 19 millimeter ratchet to spin that off. Okay, so here we get to the oiler mechanism. So in this video, let's see, we'll show you what we got here. There's a bunch of other videos online that are better at showing how to repair this stuff, but mine kind of had a unique problem. So here we have, this is a worm gear right here with a little bar on it, and when this bar interacts with the notch on the clutch bell here, you see that little notch, and you basically, when you put it on, you have to line up this little line right here with that so it spins the worm gear. So as the clutch bell spins, it turns this worm gear, and when this worm gear turns, you'll see this little gear right here. That's the oil pump. It starts spinning the oil pump. Okay. So I bought all the parts to replace the oil pump and replace the worm gear and this little bar and some O-rings and things like that. But what I realized after I took it apart, mine has kind of a unique problem. This is the oil pump right here, and what has happened, I guess my needle bearings probably got worn at some point, and my clutch bell got loose and wore a hole through the plastic and created this cavity right here between the oil pump and the chassis. This needs to be sealed because this area right here is where it's sucking the oil from the oil pump, from the oil chamber. And let me just show you where that is. So the oil tank is, let me just get here. Okay, so the oil tank inlet is right here on the bottom, and what happens is, this is the oil tank, and the let me pull this off. I already pulled that screw out, but here's the oil tank. This little valve right here hooks into there. This O-ring connects up to where the bottom, this is the bottom of the oil pump right here, and it is sealing, this little O-ring seals, this little O-ring here seals in here. So when it's screwed down into that little spot, it's sealed into here, and it sucks the oil out of the oil tank. But since I have this little hole worn in the cavity here, see, you can see daylight under there. You can actually go under here and actually show you. See, there's the hole. That's no good. I can't have this hole right here between the oil pump and that valve where it goes and sucks it out of the oil thing. So I've got to clean this off really good and then put some epoxy glue or something like that over that to keep that sealed. But the first thing I'm going to do is replace this oil pump. I've already got the pump. My problem probably wasn't the oil pump. It was probably because of this hole that's worn through here. But I am going to replace the pump while I've got it. I'm going to replace this worm gear while I have it all apart. The worm gear just pulls up, simply just pull on it and it kind of spins the gear. There's the worm gear. You can see mine's probably seen better days. I'm going to replace the worm gear. I'm going to get the oil pump out of here too. So the first thing I'm going to do to get the oil pump out of there, I'm going to flip it back over on its back so we can see. You can see right there, this right here is the oil pump. I'm just going to take, I actually had some 5mm screws around. These are 5mm thread screws. Just going to thread that right into there. To get to this, you have to remove the bar. You don't have to remove it completely. I've just kind of loosened mine, but you have to pull the screws out for this bar right here and get it out of the way. And I'm just going to screw that in finger tight till it stops. And then I'm just going to use something to pull on that. I think I'll just use maybe a pair of pliers here and just pull on that. There we go. Okay, so there comes the oil pump. Like I said, there's a lot of other videos out online that are better at replacing the oil pump and stuff. I'm doing this video because mine has kind of a unique problem. But this oil pump probably really nothing wrong with it. It feels a little wonky, but it's really not too bad. But you can see that worn spot, that little area right there where the clutch belt was rubbing right against the side of the oil pump. And if we could get to that, it wore away the plastic first. So I've got to figure out some way, now that I got this out of there, I've got to put the new oil pump in, and then I've got to seal this hole right here so that my oil pump can get a seal and suck oil out of the oil reservoir. So that's going to be my next thing to do. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my new oil pump here. There it is, and I got my new oil pump. Okay, there's my new oil pump. Let's peel open the oil pump. And again, when you go to put the oil pump in, there's a little diagram here on the bottom. I try to clean my chainsaw off nice and clean before I start working on it, but it's still pretty dirty. But you can see in this orientation, you want to put it in just like the little picture. See that little picture right there with the notch? You're going to put it in this orientation. What I'd like to do here is find my little 5mm screw that I was using. Okay, here is the old one and here's the new one. So you can see the old one's got some rubs on it. This is the old one, this is the new one. They're exactly the same. Let's see how the new one spins. The new one does spin really smoothly versus the old one. As you can see, there's a hole on each side. This sucks up from the reservoir, this little channel I suppose, and this is what pumps it out to the chain mechanism. So let's go ahead and put the new pump in. I'm just going to screw on my 5mm threads here till it stops. And I'm going to go and I'm going to push this in the bottom. Again, I'm going to observe the little diagram here. I'm going to put it in with the notch like that. Try and get it as close as possible. See how I've got the notch right there? You see that? Okay, so now I'm just going to push that in. Gotta tap it in with a little until it stops. Back my screw out. And this is where the fun's going to begin. Because you can see here, I got my new oil pump in here. I don't know why that's not coming in focus. Why isn't that focusing? As you can see here, I've got my new oil pump in here, and it's fully in there, and it spins nicely. But I still got this gap right here, so I'm going to have to clean this up with some sort of solvent. Get that really clean so that when I put some glue or some epoxy or something in here, that's nicely sealed off. So when I got it all nice and cleaned off and I'm ready to work on that, I will come back. Okay, so here is the area that I applied the glue and I've let it set overnight, and you can see it's pretty hard right here, and this is the glue that I used. I used this E6000, you know, it's just a clear glue. It's kind of a rubbery kind of glue. It's a little flexible, And I chose that because I wanted it to get inside this area here so that it would seal all the way around it. And I didn't want it to stick up too much because I know the clutch bell is going to be floating just above that. Hopefully it won't rub on that area anymore. Since I think it originally wore it down because I think the needle bearing and the clutch got loose, and hopefully that won't happen anymore, but I guess we're going to see. So anyway, so I got that sealed off. Now I'm going to reassemble the with the new parts. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our new, this is our part number for the worm gear. It comes with the little metal part for the worm gear, so let's pop that open. So here's a new worm gear, and it goes in, and it goes in like this, and it just goes in and pushes down. And as you put it in, you'll see it kind of pushes the gear right there. And now that you know that it's working well, that when I spin it like this, it'll actually turn that gear. I should probably put a little bit of oil or something on there though. Let me put a little bit of oil on there. I might put a little bit of grease on there just so that that gear has a little bit of, you don't want to put too much grease in this area because the clutch bell's right there. So I put a little grease on there, and we're going to slip that back in there. And so now when it spins, it makes the oil pump spin. Okay, so that's in there correct. Now the next thing I have to do is put the clutch back in. Now to properly put the clutch in, it should be, this goes on, and it goes on by spinning counterclockwise, and it goes with this side facing up. And I should be tightening that. Now to do that properly, I should be putting in a stop that keeps the piston from moving in the spot, you know, through the spark plug hole. But I'm wondering if I can just put this in reverse and doing it that way. Okay, and that should actually do it. So I put my hammer drill thing in reverse here, and I think it snugged it up pretty good. Next goes on my clutch bell. Oops, needle bearing first. Put a little grease on my needle bearing, but I want to put a lot of grease in there, just a little bit, just to keep it lubed until. Just put a little grease on there. This is just some super grease that I have around. I use for bicycles actually, but this should be fine. It goes in there like that, and I don't think that's going to rub. I think that should be fine. Now the most important thing when you put the clutch bell back on, you see this little line right here. You got to make sure that that lines up with the little bar. You can, let's see if I can see the bar right here. There's the little bar right here that goes onto that worm gear for the oil pump. So you got to make sure that when you put this together, this little notch and the little line goes over top of that. And I should be able to see that line up. And now I'm good to go. I'm just going to put my washer and my E-clip on there. So my washer and E-clip, just like it was on before. I'm just going to pop that on. That feels good. Okay, now let's go. Okay, so here in the back part, here's the back side of our oil pump right here. There's our oil pump, right? You can probably see the little area where I glued is right there. Let's see if I can see that pretty good. See that little area right there? There's a little bit of that glue right there. And so this oil pump matches up with this little plastic part, and this plastic part pops in here like this. Goes into the oil reservoir here. There's a little hose that goes onto, and then that goes in there. But what I gotta do first is I gotta pull out the old oil reservoir, because I got a new one of these. So I'm just gonna grab that with a pair of forceps here. I'll pull that out. You can see that that is on there. Okay, got that out of there, and I'm gonna put the new one of these on. I think I got a new reservoir and a new pickup. A new hose and a new pickup. So let's see what I got here. I got the new hose here. So let's pull up the new hose. The reason I got the new hose is because I was replacing all these parts anyway. I don't think it was that expensive to get the new hose. And it just makes the seal between the hose a little bit better. And I got a new pickup. So I didn't realize I did both. So okay, so I'm actually gonna take a little of that oil from the old hose and pickup, stick that in there. Pop that in there. Okay, I'm gonna put a little oil right where that meets. Because I'm gonna pop that right back in here. So there's that hole. I'm gonna pop the new pickup, the new hose. Slide that in there. And we're gonna pop that. We're gonna pop that right inside that hole. Now, sometimes this can be hard to pop these in. Let's see. Just push down my finger. And it looks like I got that in there perfectly. Good. Now, the other part we have to do is we got this part. I gotta replace this little O-ring here. And here's my new O-ring. I got my little O-ring part here. And there it is right there. So I'm going to pop that off. No reason to replace that plastic piece because it's not damaged or worn or anything like that. I'm going to peel off that other, I'll put that right there for now. I'll peel off that other O-ring. Glad I'm replacing this. Some people get leaking, I guess, where this meets the tank, meets the oil reservoir tank, that leaks oil. That's if the pump's working properly. My pump wasn't working good. Well, that's really hardened. I mean, that's like stiff. The new one is soft and supple. It was also flattened out a little bit. You can actually see it was flattened. I can pop the new O-ring on there. I think it's important to replace this O-ring while you're doing it, just to make sure you're not going to get any leaks. Okay, so let's go back to the bottom here. So it goes in this orientation like this. So this part right here is going to go in there. This part with the O-ring is going to fit in underneath where the oil pump is, and it just kind of pops in place. So we're going to pop that in there like that. And boom. It's in there like that. And this is held in place with one of the small screws. And I think this is the small screw that goes with that. And we just use our handy dandy wrench that actually comes with. I don't think it actually came with this. I think it actually came with my Stihl blower, actually. Okay, let's show that going in there. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on this. I want to just snug it. Snug it. Otherwise, you too tight, you're gonna crack that plastic. Okay, good. So that should be it for putting that all back together. It's spinning well. I can actually feel it spinning the oil pump. And I think I am just gonna throw all my screws back in here. So I got my screws that go. Let me widen this out a little bit. So I just gotta put my screws back in here, here, and here. Those are the longer screws, and this is what holds it against the frame. Let me just pop them into place. This one goes back into there. This one goes back into the bottom there. Alright, and then we're just going to put that screw in. So let's go ahead and put that screw in there. Looks good right there. I'm going to put that back on. So the next thing I'm going to do is I took the fuel out to be able to work on it like this, and I swear to God my fuel is still leaking here for some reason. And I did, let me pop this down real quick. So I'll pop this handle off. Now I had stuck this hose on here at some point. Because the original little hose that I had on there had come off, and so I actually bought the real hose that goes on here. Supposedly this is the one that goes with it. It's a vent hose. I'm going to put that new vent hose on there. You can see where that's going. There's a little vent hose that comes out of the tank right here. I'm going to stick that new vent hose on there because whenever I was using the old vent hose, I think it just got old and cracked or whatever like that. So now this new vent hose should keep the gas from leaking out when I have the chainsaw either upside down or this is not going on easy, is it? Does not want to go on. I think that's pretty good. I should put that a little bit deeper. Okay, it's on there pretty good. So I got my new vent hose on there. Gas was leaking here, and I'm not sure why it was leaking. Let's loosen that up and find out what's going on here. Plain screwdriver. I put those on pretty tight with the whatever that comes with it. And my gas pickup I replaced recently, so my gas pickup's good in there. Put that back on there. Tighten it up nice and tight. I think that'll be good. So I'm going to go put a little gas in here, and then I'm going to run it, and hopefully I'll be able to come in and shoot a little video of it running and squirting oil where the oil is supposed to come out here onto the chain. And these little rubber things, these go back in these little holes, which I guess I'm going to have to pop that off of there first. That just goes in these little holes. There's one. There is two. And there's three. There's three of those. Put this back in here. Okay, it's all good. I'm going to start it up, see if I got some oil pumping through there, and we'll come back and start the video again. Okay, so I have gone and started the chainsaw, and I checked to make sure that while it was running we had oil pumping out of this little hole right here. Let me zoom in. So what happens is this spins, it turns the oil pump, it sucks the oil out of the reservoir, it goes through a little tube and then comes out here. With this little hole right here interfaces with this hole that is on the, and there's one on each side, depending on if you want to put your bar on upside down or not. So I'm going to use it in this orientation, so it matches up with this hole right here. So you'll see when I flip this over and I put that over here, that little hole lines right up there. And since your bar can go back and forth, it has to match up with this little slot. So it comes out of this little hole, and the oil fills this whole area, and then goes in through this little hole right here, and then goes and gets oil on the chain, and then the chain picks up the oil from there. So let's just go ahead and start it up, and let's see if we got some oil coming out of there. I can show you the oil coming out. So hopefully it'll start up nice and easy again. I have to pull it down here for a second. See, I got a good amount of oil coming out of there. And before I went through all this, I knew there was something was going on, because one, the chain just didn't seem to be shooting that much oil off of it, and I hardly ever had to put oil in my tank, and I knew something was up. So you can see that the oil flow is pretty good at this little slot. So I am going to put my bar back on, put my chain back on, and run it, and just to make sure that the chain is actually throwing off some oil while it's working. Just make sure the oil is getting all the way from the tank onto the chain while it's actually sawing. So I'll come back after I do that. Okay, now it actually looks as though we've got a good amount of oil coming out here. The chain looks nice and oiled. It's sliding really nice. You can actually see, if you pull that up, you can actually see the stickiness of the oil. That's getting oil in there. It's sliding really good. I got good tension on there. You can actually see in there that it's oiling well. So it looks like we're back up in action. It threw some oil with a little bit of debris on there. As long as I can actually feel the oil in the guide, there is what we're really looking for. So that's it. It's all fixed.